Hey everybody, my name is roar.skye and welcome to my channel. Today we have Jamie Love, the creator of the worldwide raw food meetup, which is incredible. She's a raw foodist and she's been on a journey which is very spiritual, and it's very enticing when you listen to how she speaks. She's also a mum, and welcome.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Skye. It's such an honor to be here.
Oh, it's such an honor for you to come. It's been incredible. The raw food worldwide meetup. It really has. Like, I held the meetup in Sydney, and it's all over the world. So before I get into your journey, I'd love to know what inspired that, because it's worldwide. It's amazing.
Skye, ever since I was a little girl, I just felt this passion inside of me to want to do something really big in the world. And I never knew what it was. And I don't know if this is just the beginning or if this is what it is. I just know that I always felt called to want to like make an impact. And as I went raw, I was by myself. I didn't have any kind of community or support around me. I didn't have any family or friends that were vegan or raw. And when I moved to Los Angeles, COVID happened and there was all the lockdowns. And I lived here for 2.5 years and not making any friends. So I started the meetup, and it helped me to really blossom into who I want to be, because I'm being surrounded by like-minded people who love me and accept me, and everybody's just radiating these high vibes. And these meetups are just so much fun, and everybody's just feeling high on life. And it's something really, really special that I've created here in Los Angeles, and people all over the world in these Facebook groups are like, wow, that looks, I would post the reels of the videos from the meetups, and they're like, I wish I could be at your meetup. And I'm thinking, like, why isn't everybody doing this? Because a lot of the raw vegan restaurants have closed down. The raw food movement has died down a little bit. Why are we not reviving it, bringing it back? We're doing everything online, but in-person community and support and connection is so important for our growth, to help us thrive, to help us stay accountable, to help us feel, just supported and loved. So there's this guy named Brian Johnson, and I went to some of his meetups, and he initiated a global worldwide meetup for his movement. And I just like, it was like something clicked in my brain, and I was like, why can't I do this for the raw food community? Why aren't we doing global meetups and connecting the meetups? Because there are people gathering, at the UK Fruit Festival, but I don't feel connected to them. And there are
Yeah.
people across the world who are looking at my meetup, wishing that they could be at my meetup, wanting to feel connected. So it's like, how can we have these little clusters of community and meetups all over the world, but connect them so that it feels like we're doing it together?
Yeah, and I've seen you post regularly. So you do meetups a lot more. So we, so far in Sydney and the world, as far as I know, we've had one meetup. And luckily, you're not saying we should do these once a year. You're saying, like, let's do them every few months. And I think that will spark such a community. But also, you're doing them more often than that. How often? I see you post a lot that you're doing meetups. How often do you do these meetups in LA?
Well, the worldwide meetup, it's a big operation, and I'm the only
Yes.
one doing all of it. So I can't do it too often. And once a year, I think it'll just dwindle out and people will lose interest. That's
Yeah.
why I'm thinking every 3 months, like once a quarter is good. It gives enough time
Yes.
to, get people enough time to plan, because this is new for people. Some people are like, I've never done this. This is a big event. This is a big ordeal for me to plan this thing.
Yeah.
So, I've just gotten, being a mom, and, I was a stay-at-home mom for years. I just love planning events and parties and things like that. So it comes very naturally to me. And once you get the hang of it, it comes so easily. But I'm doing a beach meetup probably once a month. And then, we'll do the worldwide meetup every few months. And then I'm also doing other events too. So the first Friday of every month, we're doing living foods and documentary screening at a plant-based restaurant. And they have a raw menu for us. And they have a whole private room that they're letting us use. And the
Wow.
executive producer of the Cowspiracy came. That's the film that we watched. This was the first inaugural, I can't say the word, movie night. and we
Yeah.
were all eating raw foods and watching a plant-based documentary. So that's going to be really exciting. We had 40 people come to that.
Wow. I was about to ask how many came. Now that's incredible. Now, are they majority of them eat a lot of raw foods?
The funny thing is that most people who come to the meetup are not even 100% raw. Most of them are just curious about it. They're dabbling in it. They just want to learn about it. They want to change their health. Some of them are not even vegan, but they're trying to go vegan or they're trying to go
Sure.
raw. So the big thing that I'm promoting is I want to remove the separation and the judgment and the criticism out of the raw food community. And I feel that we are stronger together. And the more we can open our hearts, the more we can feel love and compassion for people,
Mm.
it's just going to be better. We're not going to divide. We're not going to crumble. Like, we're going to build this raw food movement so strong. People are going to be like, what are these people doing? So I don't promote any judgment. Like, wherever people are on their journey, they are welcome and they can
Yeah.
come to learn and grow, as long as they don't come and they're like putting us down but most people that come are just, they're so curious of what we're doing and they feel the energy. Like, they feel the vibe at these events. They feel the love. Like, we're hugging each other. We're laughing. We're playing. We're running in the grass. We're doing yoga. We're
Oh, I
eating
love all
fruit.
of
We're
this.
picnicking. Like, it's just so fun. Like, even people walking by are stopping and they're coming up and they're like, what are you guys doing? Like, what is this? People need this. They need love. And that is the missing piece that we need, because this lifestyle is such a loving and compassionate lifestyle. We can't have judgment, you know? That's
Yes.
just going to scare people away. And that to me is what is in the vegan community currently, where it's criticizing and judging people for eating animal products. But I feel there's a different way to do it. And that's how I like to host my events is, you know, focusing on the positive, focusing on the benefits,
Yeah.
and, focusing on love and acceptance and letting people know that they can be their full authentic selves around us,
Yeah.
and they can just be them and they will be accepted. And I think that's what makes it really special.
Yeah, look, I think people act the way they do because they become very protective. So I think raw vegans are so different. We're very original. There's not many of us around, and we're so used to being told to do this and do that. And we get set in our way. Like, we get really ingrained. Like, I eat fruit this way because I follow, let's say, Dr. Moss, and I eat greens because I follow Dr. Brooke Goldner, and they get really stuck, right? So even when raw vegans come together, they almost know it's mine, it's mine. But I think it's like this protective mechanism, right? And then you take that to vegans and they ingrain in themselves that they do what they do for the animals so much to protect themselves in a world where they're being kind of harassed. And I feel like you're connecting everyone and saying, whether you do it for the animals, whether the main focus is health, whether the main focus is you had a disease, we're all one in the same. Even if you eat meat and you want to come and experience more health or just know other people, we live in a world where we really get dogmatic to protect ourselves, I think.
I honestly don't talk about food that much, Sky. I really don't. I don't post about food. I don't do food
True.
recipes. I'm not 100% raw, but right now in my Telegram group, we're doing a 30-day raw challenge. So
Yeah.
what is the third? I'm 13 days, 100% raw right now. I'm also doing fasting. I'm also doing colon cleansing. I'm also doing juicing. This is just my lifestyle. And if I decide after this 30 days to go eat cooked food, it's nobody's business. And
That's
that's what I want to stress, is that it is
yeah,
no one's business. There's no raw vegan police. You know what
that's
I mean?
right.
Like, even if you just eat a smoothie once a day and you have one raw meal a day, like,
Yes.
you're curious about it. You like the way you feel after you have that
Yeah.
smoothie. You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason why I should be telling anybody what kind of water they should drink, what kind
Yes,
of that they should drink.
I
Like, it's
agree.
up to them to find it on their own. And usually the funny thing is that the meetups is that we hardly talk about food. There's no debates. That's the best part.
Yeah. I found at the meetup in Sydney where when we spoke, we had so much in common because we did things like shop in the same places, or we like to do the same things. It was this common ground I'd never experienced. So people who obviously raw are there because they like the food, or usually it's for the health. So all the topics were it was like the same wavelength everybody was on. Look, we had vegetarians there. Some people were fruitarians. Some people were high raw, everyone from a different space. But when you come together, you bring your energy, right? And then it forms the conversation. But it was just nice to talk to people who had similar, what do you want to call it? Like hobbies. You know, we all different walks of Sydney, but we had similar hobbies. And I think that was something I hadn't experienced before. It was beautiful.
Yeah, and there's no right or wrong way to go about it. And it's like, I don't think that there's any right way for everyone to eat. I think everybody's body is different. I think your environment is different. Your genetics are different. Your, predisposition for disease is different. Your energy is different. Your digestive system's different. Your, what is that? See, that's what I mean. I don't talk about
Microbiome, maybe the microbiome.
microbiome.
Yes.
Everybody's microbiome is different, so it's not that there's a right or wrong. It's just everybody's on their own stage of the journey. And we have to honor that. It's a different stage. So like I was once where somebody was vegetarian,
Yes.
curious about vegan, but having a hard time going back to animal products. But if I wasn't accepted when I went to a raw food meetup 13 years ago, curious about it, maybe I would have been turned off to it.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. I think that's true. I think you've got to do what works for you. And I just posted in my group the other day that no two people have I ever seen have healed the same way or are healing the same way. Like you walk your own path. So you can't, when you share knowledge about what you do about your health or about you do to help the animals, you do that, and it's up to people how they interpret that from where they're standing and in their world. And it's so beautiful that you're bringing everyone together, I think. And it's very spiritual, and I get that vibe from you that this is all about, and that's why you don't post about food, right? It's all about the love.
100%, 100%, because it really is. It really is about the love. It really is about who you become in this process, this self-discovery. And everyone has different lessons to learn. And that is another reason why, because when you come into this world, you don't know what lessons you have to learn. Everybody's going to be learning something different. They're going through different addictions. They have different lessons to learn with compassion, with love. When I was younger, I didn't even feel compassion for animals. I felt nothing. This has been who I have developed into during this process on this journey of learning to open my heart, learning to feel love for animals. So if somebody's not there yet, they're just not in that stage of their journey yet. They have to learn compassion. They have to learn unconditional love.
Yeah.
So it's not something you can just tell somebody like, feel this way. Like they have to go through certain life experiences to unfold, for their heart to open, to really feel, peel back these layers and raise their vibration and expand their consciousness. Because I feel like that is what's really important, is if you're stressing about little mundane things about your diet and food and this and that, and counting calories and figuring out how many amino acids, I don't even think about that stuff, honestly. Like maybe it's important, but I feel like I just eat raw. That's it. I just try to eat as healthy as possible and live a balanced life and have a healthy mind, body, and spirit. But we could drive ourselves crazy trying to be perfect.
Yeah, it's almost all those things are a distraction from what actually needs to happen. It seems to be the hardest thing people can do. So when I first went raw, I'd been so disconnected. My brain was almost empty. So if I wanted celery, I ate celery. If I wanted a carrot, I ate a carrot. Now, being a health coach and being online and seeing what everybody else is doing, it's very easy to want a celery, but then go, oh, I should do fruit, or I should do greens, or what time is it? That wasn't there before. And if we can reconnect to ourselves, because the one other thing when I first got well that I noticed was the voice in my head was saying that it loved me and it loved its food. It loved the sun. I loved all these things. I go to bed going, I love you, Skye. I've got a roof over my head. I told myself I loved myself more in the first 3 weeks of being raw than I had in my entire life. Like I don't think I'd ever, I was always so busy. And all of a sudden, and I don't think it's just the food. I think there's a lot of things, as you said, everyone's walking a different path. But that stands out to me so much. Like the most important component to me is that we do this because we love ourselves. Like for me, raw is the best way to love myself. Like if I could have cooked food and that incorporated and I still loved myself, but for me at this time, it's just too much for my system. But it doesn't mean that that's how it works for everybody, right?
Yes, and that's the important thing is learning how to love yourself because people are going to make mistakes. And some people can stay 100% raw and it's very easy for them. They could do it overnight. God bless them. They're angels. I don't know how they do it. It has been so hard for me because my lessons are different. I had to deal with binge eating. I had to deal with depression. I dealt with a lot of hardships in life, food addiction. I still deal with, food addiction where I'm using food to numb what I'm feeling, so that is another process of like seeing these addictions come up, being able to process them, work through them. This is part of the journey of your diet. The diet is a spiritual process,
Mm,
eliminating these things that we're using to numb ourselves. So
yeah.
learning to love yourself is a huge aspect of transitioning to this diet. But if you're beating yourself up, if you fall or you make a mistake or you eat too much, you overeat, you eat too late, you're really just causing more toxicity in your system energetically.
For sure. When I first got well, because my brain was empty and it was just the food and just me, every step was like love. There wasn't many outside people, any outside energies. And when you then get strong to go back in the world, it's so easy to take on other energies. And especially when you eat lighter foods, you're very sensitive. And I always say to people is once part of the healing is getting to know and fall in love with you. Like once you fall in love with you, you find it much more easy to go, right, I want to eat this or I want to eat that, but I love me and I don't want to feel like, whatever it is, upset bowels, upset, joints. But that's, as you said, it's not like that for everybody all the time. And it has to be that way because otherwise we don't learn lessons. Like I truly believe if someone handed me the cure to all my problems when I was 15, when it first got really bad, I wouldn't have taken it. I probably would have battled in a different way for another 25 years or however long it was, 20 years or something to get, because you need to sometimes go through the lessons to get to the next level of food as well. The lessons in what you're doing every day.
Exactly. And for me, my journey with plant-based, not even raw, just staying plant-based has been a 20-year journey.
It's amazing.
20 years, even fasting, learning how to fast, like the yo-yoing back and forth over the years, because this is a lifelong process. This is a lifestyle,
Mm.
for me at least, is part of it, the bouncing back and forth. Because
Yeah.
yes, maybe I had fallen off, gotten on, fallen off, gotten on, but now I'm to the point where it's like this. And people are looking at me like, how can you just like go raw overnight like that, do a 30-day challenge and it be so easy and you have no cravings? Because I've been doing this for so long. I've been doing raw for 13 years, So it's like now I'm at the point where I'm strong enough where I can have cooked food and then I can go back to raw and it's not like this addiction. I don't feel this like I'm afraid to go raw or I need the cooked food. I'm just like I can have it and I could be like, okay, that was good. I'm going back to raw tomorrow. So
Yeah.
it's just it takes time. It takes time to like really change your beliefs and change your patterns and change your programming and for your body to adjust. It takes time, to
Yeah.
transition. And it's not that you're just transitioning your body to eat raw. You're transitioning on an energetic level. Your consciousness is transitioning, your mindset, your beliefs, everything is changing. So be gentle with yourself.
Yeah. And I was talking to Chantel on her podcast yesterday about how, because I recently got huge chunks of my memory back. Now, to go raw when it's a necessity, when you're not attached to who you really are, had been a lot easier. So a lot of people like Skye, you just eat raw, you don't even question it. And you're so happy all the time. Well, now my memories come back. So much of what we eat, we've associated with who we are. So when people are transitioning to cook food, you have to let go of everything you've ever known. So the first 3 years of doing raw, I really didn't want to go back. But now, like yesterday, for example, is the first time I've been out with my family since I've got my memory back. And when I've ever in my past, if I've been able to get to the table and eat with them, I've had a small glass of wine, I've eaten what they're eating. And that's part of me that I want to feel again. And I sit at the table and I have to remind myself that I can't go back, that wouldn't have even happened before. So it's one of those things where it's although you want to love yourself and not have pain, there's also an attachment and a love to who you were and what you were eating. And I think that's why as well, vegans, plant-based, we eat bolognese, lasagna, pizza, because it's in us. It's like part of a memory or part of our soul which gets revived. So it's deep, right? Is the whole food thing isn't just as simple as like, robotics. Now you're just going to eat apples or something. There's so many different levels to it, which people should feel free to explore and grow from.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely, I know I'm not the same person. And it took a lot of work for me to rearrange my lifestyle so that I could break away from the person that I was, so that I could become this person that I am and becoming. Like it's a never ending process. The thing with transitioning for me, I did go overnight raw, but then 8 months later, I went back because I did not do the inner work on myself. You have to do the inner work along with the diet change. It's so important,
Yeah.
because I ended up going back because I still had the memory, emotional attachment to the foods, like you said, especially when I went back home to visit my family. That was it. I was like, I want mom's this, I want mom's
Yeah.
cake, I want mom's everything, because that's like the love that I felt
Yeah.
growing up, So it's like if you're not replacing that love like for yourself and doing that inner work to heal your inner child, to heal those traumas, to heal all the things that you've numbed yourself with food, it's
Yeah.
going to be very hard to transition. Like you've got to do the work, the inner work, along with the physical transition.
That's right. So how did you come across becoming vegetarian, plant-based, raw? How did it all start for you?
You want to know something funny, Skye? Is that my whole family are meat eaters. And when my mom got pregnant with me, for some reason, this never happened to her before, she couldn't stomach any animal products.
Wow.
Yeah. This is
Like
this is
meant to
like
be. Wow.
it's part of my destiny. I know, it's crazy, right? She couldn't stomach it. So she went vegan during my pregnancy and she
Not
didn't
even
eat any meat.
vegetarian. She went vegan.
She went vegan. Yeah. During my pregnancy. And after she had me, they would, when I was started to eat food, they tried to give me meat and I would actually throw up. Like I would puke.
Wow.
Even one bite, they would put it in my mouth. I would gag and I would throw up at like at a restaurant, anywhere, the dinner table, like they'd have to clean it up, like actually throw up, not just spit it out. Like it was so weird. It was like my body was rejecting it like crazy.
Wow.
So I grew up never eating meat. I did eat eggs and dairy and shellfish on occasion, not all the time. It was mostly, we grew up Italian, so it was mostly pasta and bread. So it was not healthy for me. I grew up with a lot of health ailments. And, I had a pot belly and I had a lot of bloating and inflammation in my face. I had rosacea. Had terrible lethargy, brain fog. I couldn't focus. I'd fall asleep in class. I was 17. I almost fell asleep at the wheel just because I was so tired. Then I started I started smoking, I started drinking, I started doing drugs. I did all the things, staying up late, all hours of the night, putting chemicals all over my body, tons of chemical makeup all over myself. And when my aunt got cancer and my mom started doing all this research to try to see if we could find a way to help her heal naturally. So we got this book by Kevin Trudeau called Natural Cures They Don't Want You to Know About. This was the first time we learned about pesticides and GMO and Monsanto and what is organic. I didn't even know what organic was, and the animal industry. So my mom started reading to me and we both went vegan. But it wasn't like a healthy plant-based vegan diet. We were still eating the pastas. We were just replacing the cheese with like tofu and, the packaged cheese and, buying snacks that were, vegan, but still tons of junk food, it wasn't healthy at all. So I did see some changes. I did see some changes just by cutting out the dairy and the eggs and the fish. But then I ended up, yo-yoing back and forth. And I had two pregnancies. So I had two children in my 20s, early 20s. And I gained so much weight, Skye, like so much weight. And the baby came out after my second pregnancy. I gained 50 pounds with my son, and then I lost some of the weight. And then I got pregnant, 2 years later, and I gained 60 pounds with my daughter. And the
Wow.
baby's only 7 pounds. That's it, 7 pounds plus some amniotic fluid, but it's not that much. So after I gave birth, I was huge, and I've seen these women, and when people look at my picture and that's like, well, you were that overweight because you were pregnant. It's not true. I was unhealthy. And when I've seen very healthy women be pregnant and, they barely gain any weight, the baby comes out and it's like almost like they never even had a baby. So, the fact that I looked like that after I had a baby was just proof of what I was doing to my body and, a result of the unhealthy lifestyle habits that I was implementing into my life. So I found Dr. Furman and I went, I did his strict plant-based diet. It wasn't raw, but it was very close to raw. I did have some cooked beans and it did have some steamed veggies.
Yeah.
So I tried that and eating tons of greens and fruits, no junk food, no salt, no oil, no sugar. And I'm telling you, I was glowing. I was
Mhm.
glowing. I was like, wow, this is amazing. People were complimenting me. I was starting to look so healthy. My eyes were glowing. My hair was luscious and soft. And I was like, wow, this is so different. I've never eaten like this before. I'd never made a green smoothie before. I'd never had a kale salad before. Like it was just so new to me. So then I was doing that for a little while. And then I found Annette Larkins on I saw a new segment of her about the raw food diet. And they
Yeah.
said, she'd found the fountain of youth.
Yeah.
And I was like, because I, coming from my mother who always wore makeup and she's into plastic surgery and always telling, me to get all dolled up. I came from a very vain growing up of like wanting to be beautiful and youthful and things like that, so I'm like, I never want to grow old. So
Yeah.
that really inspired me of like wanting to look really good and healthy and vibrant, into my 60s, 70s, and 80s. So that was really my motivation. I knew about the animals, I knew about like cancer and diabetes and heart disease, but the anti-aging aspect of it, of knowing if I start this now in my 20s,
Mm.
what's going to be
Imagine.
the result when I'm much older, so that was like, I wanted to be this guinea pig for myself. I wanted to be this scientific
Yeah.
experiment of like, let's try this. Let's see if this works, and, I'm on my way because I feel like it does work. I feel like it really is the fountain of youth. So that's basically how I found the raw diet. That was 13 years ago. And, I've just been off and on the raw diet for 13 years and learning about juicing and learning about eating raw and trying different variations of the raw food diet. I've tried fruitarianism. I've tried, gourmet raw. I've done all kinds of things, plus, incorporating fasting into my lifestyle for the past 20 years as well, on top of eating raw. Yeah, so that's been my journey. That's how it all started. It's just my aunt, she got cancer and it changed my whole life.
Yeah, and I don't think beauty is a bad thing to focus on. And the reason being is if when I am at my healthiest, I look the most beautiful. I look the best. My hair's luscious. You feel amazing. We are drawn to it. We're like, oh, it's not because of the Kardashians. It's because we feel our best. Like when I look my best, life just flows. Sleeping's good, showering's good, everything just feels good. And people, I think,
That's good.
sorry?
Your mental health is good.
Oh, everything
Everything.
is good. So I think it's something, it's just gotten, I think, mixed up, right? Because so many people I talk to, they're like, the beauty standards, this, and I'm like, people who are unattractive are unhealthy in some way. That's just how the body works. Even me, I will be more unattractive when I'm not as healthy. It's just when, it's just the way it is. And we've gotten to this world where, people are having plastic surgery and it's all gotten mixed up. But it's just the way it is, like the golden ratio, and the closer you are to it, the healthier you are, the more beautiful, the more attractive. It's a healthy, even organs in the human body is when they're functioning, closer to the golden ratio, the person is healthier every step away. So I think it's not a bad thing. I think that's amazing. Did you have any other health problems? Did you notice anything else
Well,
that?
I want to touch on this really quick because this is a really, really important topic for me. I was thinking about this today because I'm 13 days in eating raw, and my clothes are starting to fit better and my skin is starting to glow. And this is what I love about going back and forth, is that I get to see the transformation over and over again. I get to see the wrinkles start to disappear off my face. I get to see the bloating go down and the inflammation disappear, and my eyes brighten and my energy levels go up. And I become more charismatic and I become more confident, and I feel more empowered. Like, who doesn't want to feel that way? The beauty is a result, but just like you said, Skye, is that the healthier you are, the more attractive you are energetically too.
Yes.
It's just, you are magnetic. And that is going to bring you better relationships. It's going to align you with people, more like-minded people who love you on the same vibration. It's going to help to elevate you in so many levels. It's going to help you attract, financial abundance, and just to feel more expanded. And yeah, just all kinds of opportunities come to you when you're feeling your best. And when I look in the mirror, yeah, like, I'm not wearing any makeup right now, but if I'm healthy, I don't need to. That's
Yes,
the point.
that
Because
is the point.
even if you have wrinkles on your face, if you're healthy, it's like they're beautiful.
You
It's like
glow.
you can have a healthy person with wrinkles, and it's like, for some reason it looks, you're like, wow, you look good with wrinkles. And then you see an unhealthy person with wrinkles, and you're like, I don't know, like, your wrinkles don't look that good. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
it's almost like, as you're aging, when you're healthy, you're aging, like, in your face, like it accentuates your beauty. It's like, it's not a bad thing. It's like you're aging
No.
gracefully and you don't have to hide it.
That's right. I think not have to hide it. So when I even notice, if I like, when you eat just fruit, you're literally just floating around, no makeup, hair just falls perfectly. Now, as you step away, like greens, I'm still good with, anything so good. But for me, if I start to get into too many nuts or like tamari or anything like that, you start to see it. And this is when you start seeking something to fix it. And then your life starts, you can see how people's lives then start to become, you don't eat right, your hair's not good, I need another product. This isn't like, and you can see how the whole beauty industry is formed based on like people's insecurities. But if you actually just eat well, you don't need any of it. I went to a beautician and she said to me, your skin is incredible. And this is when, because most of my journey of raw, I've eaten just fresh foods, just because that's where I was at. She said, what do you use? So she's been using things, most of her life. It's her career. And I said, coconut oil. I said, that's it. And she's like, it's the food. And I'm like, of course it's the food. Like, I feel that you see what you put in is what comes out. Like, it literally comes out on you. And recently I used coconut oils as the least reactive, and I just didn't want anything, but you can just glow and feel your best. And I didn't even think about products until for me, if I start to step away and get a bit drier from things, I then will seek out like that I've got to come back into alignment from something external as opposed to something I can do for myself.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm the same way. I don't use fancy skincare. I
Yeah.
actually stopped using all that stuff. Like, I don't even use cleanser. I don't use soaps. I haven't even used shampoo in a few months. So I like to be natural, yeah.
Vibration as well. You find every time you add something in, you think it's going to make you better, but it actually makes you feel not as yourself, really. Like, it takes a little bit away from you. So the
Yeah.
less that you use, like, I just think if I could live well, I do live by the beach, but if I could live in, like, people live in like a cave, and you'd shower in like a spring or like a waterfall, and you'd eat the fruit straight from the beach, you wouldn't think about any beauty product or anything. You'd just be like enjoying living. You'd feel so amazing, right?
Well, that's the thing, is that when your body's healthy, it's like you just feel clean all the time. Like,
Dude.
it doesn't take much, you know what I mean? So if you were living on a beach, you wouldn't really smell, you
That's
know, your hair wouldn't get that bad, you know, like I don't know, you just live. Yeah, it's just
That's it, you just
live.
live. Instead of
Just
like thinking, you
live.
just live. Like that's what a lot of people get really distressed when they go onto raw foods. They're like, think that life is about eating. But once you get like the food into you, you just live. You don't think about it. Like it's not a big deal because you feel so good when you talk to someone. You feel so good when you do this. Like it's not
Yeah.
such a big thing.
Yeah.
Like
And
you
that's why I don't really, that's why I don't talk about food that much because it's like I got the diet down, you know, like I'm fine. You know, like
yeah,
obviously there's things that are not perfect that I'm still working on. Like you said, it's a distraction. Like we can focus on other things. And I think the spiritual aspect of it too is just so important. And
yeah.
yeah.
It definitely is. And I know that when you love yourself, so even when I was vegan, I was still unwell. But once I found what works for me, and that was my self love and the raw foods, I could care for an animal or think about someone else, you know. So people are like, it's, I'm doing it for the animals. Well, my focus is until I got to a level of like the raw foods and veganism, like I think of veganism as self-love is, and I know everyone interprets it differently, but I can't do what's best for this planet, myself, animals, my family, until I found the food that works for me. And that's why I think
Mhm.
that veganism. So if go vegan and you eat bad food and you're killing yourself, you become a burden to the planet. And that's not a great
Mhm.
thing. But if you think about it like if I'm well, I can think about what's best for animals. I can think about what's best for me, what's best for the planet. And that was part of my awakening, as in like, because a lot of vegans are like, I don't, they're like, I only do it for the animals, but there's so many components that you can give to the
Mhm.
animals once you find your health. And it doesn't have to be raw. Just say it's eating less junk food. You got to feel good. Feeling good is such a compass, right? Spiritually.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. It's like if you do it just for the animals, you care so much about them, but like, what about what you're doing to you? Like, you know, what about what we're doing to ourselves?
That's
Like,
right.
take that love and be able to put it towards the planet, put it towards us, put it towards animals, put it
Yeah.
towards each other. Yeah. Even other
Yeah.
human beings, you know.
Yeah. I guess it's a journey for everyone, like differently. But can I ask you, when did you start to notice that it affected you spiritually so much, the food?
Oh, this is a good question. Yeah, good question. I feel like I was always very spiritual, but it wasn't until after I went vegan and I was in my 20s, after I had my son, I started having lucid dreams. I started, you know, really breaking away from the programming of religion when I was growing up. You know, I grew up Catholic and I started to question things of like, you know, why do I believe this kind of thing? And then I started having a lot of spiritual experiences. I started becoming in tune to subtle energies and I started feeling energy more. After I had my daughter, I got my Reiki certification because I started feeling the energy in my hands. And my third eye opened. This was very, very prevalent. And then I felt my heart chakra open. When my heart opened, that was like life changing. And this was after I already went raw because I had already gone raw. This was 13 years ago when I started feeling my chakras, started being able to feel my chakras because I had never felt them before. I didn't know what they were. I would hear about them, but I'm like, how do you feel something in your body? Like I just couldn't, you know, make the mind body connection. I couldn't really understand these subtle energies. And then I became empathic and then I became compassionate, you know, my heart really opened. My life started crumbling. Everything in my life fell away that didn't serve me. We ran up $50,000 in debt. We lost our house. I ended up getting divorced. I was like, didn't know where I was going to go. I had two small children. I was looking up women's shelters and, you know, I became a single mom and it was a mess. My life was such a mess, but it was all happening for my greater good.
Mm.
And everything has led me to where I am now. You know, it's really been a process of surrender too, of just letting go and learning that to go with the flow of life. And, you know, things started manifesting for me. You know, I manifested money, I manifested houses, I manifested my soulmate. I manifested soul partners, like soul tribe friends.
Mm.
And, now it's just become a natural part of my life. It's like things just flow and opportunities come, and I don't even get that excited about it anymore, because it's like when you're flowing, when you're in the vibration of everything, it just becomes so natural, and you're just so present, and everything just aligns for you,
Mm.
and you trust that, like, even if it seems like it's bad, it's all really happening for your greater good.
Yeah. So when I think of that situation where everything fell away from you, it's the similar thing happened to me. And it, like, things you think are unimaginable would have happened for you at that time, because I know what it was like for me. But I almost think it's the universe breaks it away to show that you don't need anything but yourself. Like, now you have to love yourself, right? It's either that
Mhm,
or you're not going to survive, because it
mhm.
is like that. And it can be very distressing, but you do it to know that when you come through and you have the soulmate and you have the money and you have the manifesting, that you did it all because you loved you.
Yeah, I lost everything. Like I got to a point where I gave everything up. Even when I moved to LA, I couldn't bring the kids with me because I didn't have a job lined up here. I didn't have anything lined up. And I originally wanted them to live with their dad for maybe like 6 months, so I could get settled down here. And then I was going to bring the kids down to LA. COVID happened and we got separated, like, with the lockdowns and everything. 2.5 years later, my kids never ended up moving down here. But when I moved here, I had given up my house. I gave up living with my children. I gave up my money support, my child support that I was living on for years.
Yeah.
And I gave up my car, and I didn't know what was going to happen.
Mm.
I came down to LA, like, I don't have a job. I have no money. I have no car. I have no house. I don't have my children. I have no family. I have nothing. And I like, it was like really broke away my ego. Like, it really just stripped everything that I thought that I was. And all these attachments that I had just got pulled away from me. And then I was just left with me,
Yeah.
like you said. Yeah.
Yeah. Can I ask?
And I like just feel this, and I did not leave my kids. I see them all the time. They just don't live in LA.
Yeah.
Just for
No,
anybody who's
no,
wondering.
yeah. No, and that is all unimaginable, right? Like, to lose, like, when you grow up, the only way you know of tragedy and trauma is you hear about, someone's auntie's died or something's happened on the news, or in a movie. And even then, it's very rare that it's all the exact things that mean the most to you. Because when I came through mine as well, you lose your family, my sanity, the roof over your head, everything. But I want to ask you, when did you start to notice that it was turning around? Because that's the crucial part, right? You've got to then see the love through the darkness. Like, when you are handed, a helping hand, you see it differently than you did before. Every little
Yeah.
step gets you to finding, yourself whole again.
That's very important, because it has nothing to do with the outside world, and it has everything to do with surrender and letting go. That's it.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with what opportunities coming, what's changing on the outside world. It has everything to do with your perception and your perspective on what's happening. Because once you realize I'm free, I don't actually need these things. I still exist without them. That's the breakthrough. That's the liberation right there. So I had my ex-husband, I arranged for him to move into my house. I was relinquishing my child support. I had put my notice in at my job with no job lined up. I was moving. I had 2 weeks to move out of my house, less than 2 weeks to move out of my house, and I didn't know where I was going to live.
Mm.
And I wasn't going to see my kids every day anymore. And my husband and I were on a very rocky situation, because it was big. It was just a lot of work. My new husband that I was with, still with now, we were moving down here to LA together, but we were going through a really big rough patch, and we almost split up. So I almost lost my marriage too. And I was just sitting outside work. I had already put my notice in, and I was on my break. I went out to the grass on my lunch break, and I was just sitting out there, and I put music on, beautiful spiritual music. And there was nothing I could do. I was like, everything's falling apart. Everything's falling apart. I'm losing everything. I don't know, like, my life, who am I? Blah, 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 all this stuff. And I just cried. And I was like, there's nothing else I can do. And I just sat there. And when I realized that there's nothing I can do, just let go.
Mm.
Oh my God. It was like in that moment, the heavens opened up. God came down. It was almost like angels were surrounding me, and I felt so safe and so protected. And then not only that, but my vision, I just had so much clarity come over me, and I was able to see all the possibilities open up for my life. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, it felt like on the outside, because on the outside, everything was falling apart. And that's how I was allowing the outside to affect me. But once I surrendered and I let go, I just felt so empowered. I felt like, I don't know, it was probably the most profound spiritual experience I've ever had in my life. And I had nothing, but I wasn't afraid. I
Yeah.
wasn't afraid. I just knew that everything was going to be okay. I could see it. I was like, I could see all the possibilities. I could see how this whole situation is benefiting everyone.
Yeah.
I could see how it's all going to work out. I just have to trust.
And I like how you said how this is benefiting everybody. It's when you start to think globally instead of like, how am I going to get to the bus? How am I paying for this ticket? Where am I getting this? You start to think globally, like you start to think of the world that you are part of the world, right? That I think that is such an important thing. The other thing you said is you went out and you sat on the grass and you listened to music. If that's basically how I healed, is every time I didn't know where to go or what to do, I felt at peace on grass with music. Like it
Mhm.
would just, it would remind me of being a part of the world, the universe, right? It's incredible. And to think of how far you've come from that point and how you would see the world now when you know that you don't need anything. But when you start re-stepping into life, you only accept in, or you try to only accept in what will benefit you at that stage, and you watch it kind of perpetuate into your reality or what should have always been instead of some sort of construct.
Yeah, and you no longer have attachments. It's like the attachments to things, they just because life is meant to change. If we're attaching to our house and attaching to our car, like we're supposed to change. We're supposed to move. We're supposed to make new friends. We're supposed to get a different career. We're supposed to travel to different places. We're supposed to, get rid of stuff so that new stuff can come in our life. So you just learn to just not be so attached to everything, and that when something falls away or leaves your life, or a person, you don't see them anymore and the familiarity is gone, it's like you're okay with it. You're okay with just like flowing through the changes of life because you are stable. You are the one that's like, I'm here, everything's moving around me, but I'm strong.
Yeah.
And then you also don't live in fear anymore because you're not afraid to lose things
Yes.
anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when you're not living in fear, you can live in love, you
Yes.
know?
That's when the magic happens. Living in love is where the magic,
Living in love.
it really is.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask you, I asked you before about how, when you got well, was there any health problems that you had? You may have not even known, you took for granted. Maybe there was a bit of depression, digestion. It changed when you went raw?
Yeah, I had constipation my whole life. I had bad mucus my whole life, the rosacea, the brain fog, oh my gosh, I can't tell you how smart I am now. And compared to how I used to be, it was like I couldn't learn anything.
Yes.
Now I can learn, I can understand things. I can actually hold a conversation and be present and listen
Yeah.
and absorb it. And I can, I wasn't able to feel energy. Now I can feel energy. My intuition was completely blocked off. All my chakras were closed off. Now they're more open. I wouldn't say they're all open all the time, but they're more open. And another thing too was mental health. I didn't even realize how bad my mental health was until I started changing. I probably had everything, and I'm still dealing with a lot of stuff, but it's a lot better now. It is so much better. I had really bad meltdowns. Let's see, I had probably like a bipolar type thing, the mood swings going back and forth, outrages of like anger and rage where I would just get so frustrated and like hate life and hate myself. And I just had so much anger and hatred inside me. It was crazy, and I would walk around school just fine in high school, like everything was fine. But, at the end of the day, I would go home, and when nobody was around, like I was like really disturbed inside, and I did go through a lot of depression. I felt very abandoned from both of my parents. So, I had to heal like, a lot of those inner child things had to come up. So just all the pain from my past came up to surface, and like the root of my addiction came up. Like it was really hard for me to face my shadow self, but I went through a lot of dark nights of the soul, and it was very, very painful for years, for so many years. That I'm telling you, it is so worth it when you can heal that part of yourself and love the part of yourself that hates yourself, just gosh. And then to be able to live life from this state of consciousness with this much love, like I don't regret any of it. I am so glad that I just dove headfirst into the mental illness, OCD too. That was another one that I didn't even realize, like these mental patterns of not being able to be still and be present and connect with nature and connect with people. That's another thing too, is I wasn't able to connect with people on a deep level that now I'm able to.
Yeah, all the things that change when you find self-love, right? You find
Yeah.
you find your health. I think it's really common. Many people say that they find they might have gone on raw foods for one reason, but there's all these other things that melt away that they just thought was life. And it's so beautiful to know that there's more out there for everybody. You've just got to follow the path of self-love, right?
If you just focus on love, that's it. Just focus on love. Everything else will fall into place, because we can't, love is like high vibration. Like that's where we want to be, is love. And this is the realization that I got, is that we can try to focus on fixing all these little things, like fixing depression. Okay, I'm working on my depression. I'm working on addiction. Now I'm working on this. I'm working on this. But if you just learn to freaking love unconditionally, you have opened your heart, everything else falls into place.
That's
All
right.
the addiction works out. All the childhood trauma is going to work out. Everything. It's so powerful. It's just going to rip through everything. You can waste your time working on these little things, but if you just go to love, this high vibration, everything else is just going to melt away.
That's so true. It's all about self-love. It really is. And thank you so much for joining me today. I have loved so much this talk. I love the spirituality of it. I love that there is a worldwide raw food meetup that everybody can join. I'll put your details below so everyone can get in contact with you. And is there anything else you want to say before we go?
I just want to thank you for hosting, because we need more people like you who are inspirations to people, to set the example, and to, to provide that space for people to learn and to grow and to thrive. And, if more people like you and me stepped up, we're really going to make a huge difference in the world. So I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this movement, for being a part of the community, for, connecting with me. Like, look at, we're making connections. So it feels so, so good to just make these beautiful connections through love all over the world. And you are such a light, and I love what you're doing. I love your energy. I love, the vibe that we have together. I feel like we have a kindred spirit
Yes.
connection. So this has been really, really great. I feel very honored to be here. Thank you guys all for tuning in. This was really, really special time for me to share all of this wisdom and knowledge and love with you guys.
Thank you. And guys, thanks for joining us. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe below, and I'll see you all soon. Bye, guys.